on 7th of July. And strange day where we've got, I'm a mid-house move. So we've got two Conservative leaders that are planning house moves over the next few days. But there you go, done. Thanks for joining us. And if I could just remind people that we are live on video, and to turn off mobile phones if they can, or stun them to silence. And just assume that you are being recorded at all times. So thanks, we've got full attendance, and apologies, agenda item 1, apologies. We have a full house, so that's good. That's good. Declarations of interest, agenda item 2. Councillor Dreen.
Thank you, Leader. In case you make reference to the work going on with Brittany Ferries, ABP and ourselves, I have a family member working for Brittany Ferries I'd just like to declare as a private interest.
Thank you. Councillor Stoneman.
Thank you. I'd just like to declare a private interest that my dad is in the parking department of the council under agenda item number, I don't know, but the parking modernisation one. Thank you.
14, yeah. Thank you. Thanks. Agenda item 3, to propose the minutes of the meeting held on the 9th of June 2022 to be signed as a correct record.
I know it was a slick meeting, but I don't think it started at 15:30 and finished at 15:45. Did it?
It did not. It finished at 16:45. Well done.
Slick, but not.
Yeah, I mean, this is a cabinet where we've got our eyes across all the details. So, well done. So, just to confirm, all agreed the minutes from the 9th of June, right? Okay. Okay. Questions from the public. We have one question from the public. And I would encourage other members of the public to ask questions of Cabinet or of the leader. Shall I read the question and then I can read the answer, because I am responsible for taxis. So, question from Dr. J. Stedman. Taxi policy in place is having the effect of making the few taxi drivers that really do deal with wheelchair-using passengers contemplate retirement or licensing elsewhere. Plymouth City Council should encourage retention of drivers, not accelerate numbers declining. Will you reconsider the policy to retain and hopefully recruit more drivers? Our answer from Plymouth City Council is that we have 100% wheelchair accessible Hackney carriage fleet to ensure that we do not discriminate against disabled drivers. We currently have 293 Hackney carriage drivers, and of these, there are 63 drivers with a medical exemption. So this leaves 230 Hackney carriage drivers that are available to take wheelchair customers. There are also a number of private hire vehicles that can take wheelchairs, and these can be found via our website. The link, transporting a wheelchair user /plymouth.gov.uk. There are 650 private hire vehicles which can also assist wheelchair users if they are able to transfer into the vehicle, as most standard wheelchairs can be carried in the luggage compartment. There is a national shortage of taxi drivers. However, the policy has not had a negative impact on wheelchair accessible vehicles, and Plymouth has the most wheelchair accessible licensed vehicles in Devon. We have removed the limit on the number of Hackney carriage vehicles so that anyone can apply for a HCV licence at any time. We have also encouraged drivers to return to the trade by removing the requirement to retake the knowledge test. We are currently reviewing the knowledge test to explore if we can make this less onerous for new applicants whilst maintaining standards. I would also add that we have, through the scrutiny process this year, got a select committee dedicated to reviewing taxi provision in Plymouth, and I think a number of us, including myself, are on the record to say that it is not satisfactory at the moment overall, that the city deserves and needs better taxi provision, and so we are actively looking at how we can achieve a very good service in terms of delivering taxis as we push forward with our higher value jobs agenda and trying to attract investment and keep investment in Plymouth. So it is core priority for us. And thanks to Dr. J. Stebbin for the question. Agenda item 5, Chair's urgent business. I don't have any urgent business to raise. Agenda item 6, leaders' announcements. 2 brief announcements. Firstly, I'd like to congratulate Dr. Ruth Harrell, who is receiving an honorary doctorate at the University of St Mark's and St John's, aka Marjohn's. Ruth's leadership during the pandemic has been critical to enable us to deal with the challenges it brought, and it is well deserved that she is being recognised in this way. I would also like to congratulate Jonathan Bell, who has won the South West Head Planner of the Year Award for 2022. This is indeed a tremendous achievement to win as an individual, beating several other large-scale projects across the South West. Jonathan will now progress through to the national awards, and we wish him well with that. Well done to Jonathan, and thank him for all of his hard work and dedication to the City of Plymouth. Agenda item 7, Cabinet member updates. We will move from left to right. I'm presently covering portfolio of community safety and taxes, HR, audit governance, among other things. I would just like to say that I think the events in Plymouth over the last few years, the pandemic and the violent crimes that have been very high profile have profoundly impacted us all, actually. And so with that in mind, I have formed essentially a group to look at the more serious crime, the violent crime, the repeat offenders crime, violence against girls and women. And we are holding the first sort of preliminary set of meetings around devising what will hopefully be a more comprehensive crime prevention strategy, looking at some of the good practice from other cities, not just in the UK, but from around the world. So, Cabinet members, updates, I'll move to my left, and then we'll go left to right. Councillor Shea.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'd just like to introduce you to 3 short pieces of news. Working with Destination Plymouth, an Armed Forces guide has been produced to offer discounts from local businesses to service personnel and veterans across the city. The guide is available electronically and will be distributed throughout the city's Armed Forces network for use by locally based forces as well as those visiting vessels and units. The guide was initiated by the outgoing Naval Base Commander, Peter Coulson, and supported by Plymouth City Council and the Armed Forces Covenant team. It's the first one. Secondly, I want to update Cabinet that as of Monday, when the statutory instruments for Plymouth and South Devon were laid before Parliament, that we were officially to have a free port. We will be fully mobilising over the next 6 months and undertaking the recruitment of a chair and chief executive. I'm sure you'll agree this is a moment to savour. And finally, I just wanted to say welcome to the Nautical Institute of Plymouth for their 50th anniversary conference, which is being held this week. Thank you.
Councillor Wakeham.
Thank you, Leader. Just a brief announcement. And obviously, we've got a major challenge going on with the amount of green growth that we have on the streets. And I just want to assure you that we are earnestly tackling this problem. We have now small mechanical sweepers that have been fitted with a more robust mechanism. It's a wire brush in actual fact, which will assist with the removal of weeds because it is a major challenge no matter where you look around the city, and we realise that. And so we're trying to get away from what we've done before, spraying, etc., to move to a more environmentally friendly method of getting rid of the problems in the city. We're also trialling a gas-fuelled burner where the flame is placed literally over the vegetation until it wilts. That's fine with the bigger things, but of course it's not really cost effective, if you like, when you've got a whole city to do. I think also, moreover, we're purchasing 2 Kirsten Quick Attach 70 systems. We've trialled them recently, and these allow the wide range of implements to be changed in seconds. So we can fit them to our swingers, if you like, and obviously this will help, again, combat the big problem have around the city. We want to keep the areas such as the Hoe and the city centre looking fantastic, as it does now. And of course, we've got Central Park this weekend, which I think looks lovely. But we've got a major challenge, and obviously we're not ducking that challenge. We are proactive, and we're making every effort to look at new forms of inventions. Although I've got to say that very limited on the market, because you would think this day and age we'd have made some really big strides, but I don't think it's a lot different from the 60s or 70s. Jonathan and I have been out with the team, and we're using manual hoes. Hopefully, in future years, you know, we will get a lot more in the way of advancement with new models, etc. Thank you, Leader.
Thanks, Councillor Wakeham. I do think it's worth recording the hard work that the team do. There's not many of them. It's a big city, and you know, it's been a lot of hot weather and then a lot of damp and rain, and you know, this is usually the peak season for our hard-working staff going out there and doing this. And so, you know, thank you for what you and the team are doing. Let's record that.
Thank you, Leader.
Thank you.
And I will pass on your thanks that the teams really do appreciate any acknowledgement of that kind. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I mean, personally, I think the city has never looked smarter. And 10 minutes before coming into this meeting, somebody came up to me, you know, are you the new leader of City Council? And they said to me, it's never looked so smart. So I think sometimes people are right to be grumpy, but ultimately the operation here is massively successful, and we should be very proud of that. Councillor Stoneman.
Thank you, Leader. Just one very quick announcement in terms of our decarbonisation of council offices. I think people would have seen our heat pumps being installed on our main building, Ballard House, the week before last. It's a really exciting step forward for the council's decarbonisation, and also the work undertaken in Elliott Terrace as well, showcasing what can be done to listed buildings to make sure that they are fulfilling and reaching our carbon reduction goals. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Stoneman, and good examples of us taking the climate emergency very, very seriously and delivering, or perhaps ever other people are speaking about it, we're taking hard and delivering action on those. So thank you. Councillor Carlisle.
Thank you, Leader. I'll save my part of the Skills for Plymouth introduction for later. But the one little thing, I know we've discussed it before about the Ukrainian refugees that we've had coming over. We so far have 42 children under 18 and 32 of them under 16. And so far, everything's going really, really well. We're sort of helping them, settling them down, and then being accepted at schools as well. It's working really nicely.
Brilliant, thank you. Councillor Dream.
Thank you, Leader. I'd like to make an announcement about sustainable transport, some of the measures we're taking place. This week, we've awarded a number of contracts to improve the sustainability transport offer of the city, starting with 800,000 to commence construction of the first 23 mobility hubs. These sites are for e-car clubs, e-bike hire and electric vehicle arrangements, are part of the massive programme funded by the Department of Transport's Transforming Cities Fund. We're also continuing to invest in sustainable transport infrastructure in the east of the city, awarding 871,000 to continue the Eastern Corridor strategic cycle route from Saltram Meadow roundabout through to Cotsdown Hill, providing a high-quality, traffic-free walking and cycling route further east along the former railway line to Billicombe Road. And we're also investing in 115,000 this July to improve the cycling infrastructure along Billicombe Road. Just a couple of highways announcements. The emergency help points have been installed. They're almost up and running. Just a few more checks to do on those, Leader. Trials are being carried out across the city on a new form of resurfacing. It's called surface dressing. We started looking at this in February, March time. I wanted some more information and clarification, and we're going to be doing some trials in some areas of the city. Also, we're working in partnership with the South West Highways Alliance to help maintain our carbon reduction momentum, which is really good news. And the fibre connection upgrade is nearing completion for the new planned CCTV centre over at Chelston Meadow. Thank you, Leader.
Thanks, Councillor Dream. Councillor Patel.
Thank you, Leader. Let me just start off by saying I've had an extremely busy month, but I've got to say that I've got a fantastic team working with me for leisure, culture, events and sport. and to give you my report. So the Green Tourism Scheme being promoted by Destination Plymouth to support the city's tourism, hospitality and leisure sectors is moving forward successfully. At the end of June, we had 34 businesses signed up to the scheme, and one business has gone through the full accreditation process and received the Gold Award. In addition, 38 other businesses across the city have become welcome hosts and have received gold training, and a further 30 have received the Green Edge sustainability training. A free sign-up window for the scheme has now been extended until the end of September to continue to encourage businesses to sign up to the scheme and enable them to work through the accreditation. In addition to this, supporting the emerging National Marine Park, a collection of 10 bookable marine national park visitor experiences have been developed and will be launched before the end of July. So they're about to go live. The second announcement, I had the pleasure of visiting the Mayflower Museum last night, which is located on the Barbican in the old tourist, or just above the tourist office. It was a brilliant display which has moved from the box where it was a much larger and been recycled into this site as a more permanent fixture. The Mayflower 400 Legend and Legacy exhibition, which was just as part of the commemorations back in January, which was the anniversary of the ship's voyage over there. The elements of the exhibition have been incorporated into the existing displays at the Mayflower Museum, which explores the story of the historic journey that took the play from Plymouth to America in 1620. There are lots for the whole family to enjoy inside the refreshed space, and includes interactive exhibitions, films, and a children's tale to follow. What I found really good about this, it tells both sides of the stories. So apart from the ship going from here with 102 people on board to America, it also tells the American side of the story, which we don't hear very often. So I would recommend that everyone who has the opportunity visits. I'm also excited that we have secured once again the opportunity to host Sail GP, which happens at the end of this month on the Barbican and Plymouth Ocean City, which is also the home of the National Marine Park. Last year's event contributed over 7.7 million into the local economy and 27,000 spectators across the 2 days, and we're hoping to build on this year through both visitor numbers and the economic impact. Plymouth, as you know, is an iconic sailing venue with a great sailing heritage, and we will look to engage and excite people in equal measures for leisure and entertainment and work. It really will be an event not to be missed, and will give Plymouth the exposure on a global scale. And I think the figures from last year back this up and provide a fantastic opportunity for businesses and the local economy to benefit and support us in our ambition to create and support more high-value jobs for the city.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Smith? No. Councillor Dr. Mahoney.
Thank you, Leader. I'll make one brief announcement. This morning there was the inaugural meeting of the NHS Devon Local Care Partnership, which I sit on as the chair of our Health and Wellbeing Board. We look forward to closer working with the NHS following this new organisation coming into fruition for the benefit of all our communities, to benefit health and other aspects of life. So that's my announcement. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Dr. Mahoney. Agenda item 8, Plymouth's delivery plan, which, as I understand it, has been published today and already been covered in Plymouth Live, that have given very comprehensive coverage, actually, of the 4 pillars. So this was a document I called for, really, actually, sort of just prior to the local elections, but and I thought, you know, this is such a big operation here. We've got 2,500 staff. We've got revenues above £500 million a year, and a number of capital investment projects. And we need, from the political side, to to strategise and to articulate to the public a little bit stronger what our strategic vision is for the city, and actually to do that in, I would say, a non-political way, you know, to articulate what we can do and how we need to go about doing that. And I have to say, you know, we know the 4 pillars now: creating higher value jobs, delivering good quality green homes, ensuring decent education, and providing access to first-class health and care. I think we're the first to admit that we're not near some of that at the moment, and the reason that we go into politics is to actually achieve these things and to make our communities better. You know, for all the rigmarole of elected politics, the enjoyment should be the delivery side, and we've got a duty really to set about making these 4 pillars happen for our residents. And I think the more we can transmit a positive ambition, the more it encourages people to invest here, live here, and remain here. And so I'm very pleased with the final product. I think we've had excellent buy-in from the team of officers here. I think they've understood what the objectives were of the administration and gone about designing and delivering a superb document. So I just want to record a vote of thanks to everyone that contributed on the officer side. I guess the hard work starts now. I think it started quite a few weeks ago, but I would just sort of urge you to, I know we're all really busy, but cast a look at this document every couple of weeks and see how you can nudge and align your portfolio to achieving these really achievable objectives, really. What we've tried to do in the document is put some star actions, so in each of the areas it acts as almost like an aide memoir for politicians and service directors to take those actions and hold each other to account. You know, I mean, one of the reasons I wanted this to happen was you know, we sit as a team here. It's like don't operate in your silos. Like, have the confidence to talk to one another. You know, what's happening in the good homes, the green homes area, what's happening in the education area. You know, we've got we talk a lot about potential, but ultimately this is now about implementing, and sometimes that does involve making tough decisions and not doing things how we've done things before, and actually trying and innovating new things. And but our job now, I think, is to stick to this and communicate it far and wide as we can. You know, this is what we want Plymouth Council and the city to achieve over the next few years, whether we're in a leadership role or whether we're there as a councillor. Then I hope that we all work together, you know, across the political divide to try and achieve and optimise as much as we can across these 4 objectives. So the recommendations are, if you're all happy, is to adopt this document, which we've called Plymouth's Future, Our Opportunity, Our Delivery Plan, as a statement of the administration's key priorities for delivery, and ensure that arrangements are put into place to ensure that the progress towards delivery of the plan's actions is monitored and reported. Are we all happy with that? Thank you so much. Okay, agenda item 9, skills for Plymouth strategic plan. And this really is, again, exciting, forward-looking, and something I'm really pleased to see come forward from Councillor Carlisle and her team. So I will move to one side and allow you to introduce and talk to your skills plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. So the Skills for Plymouth is an ambitious transformation programme that has been co-designed with local employers and businesses, skills providers and wider stakeholders. It's designed to make sure people have the right skills they need now and in the future to get a job and progress in work, and employers have people with the right skills they need for growth. The short-term skills recovery actions have been developed and delivered under the Resurgent programme established during the COVID-19 pandemic, and that to deliver an immediate economic response. Medium to long-term skills actions aligned to Plymouth's local economic strategy for 2020 to 2025. The key aim for the skills for Plymouth strategy is to close the skills gap in the current workforce that we have, and skills shortages, which is difficulties in recruitment, that have been holding Plymouth back economically. As a city, we do not have enough engineers, technicians, construction professionals, tradespeople, healthcare professionals, social care workers, or hospitality and tourism workers to meet the growing demand of our local business as we get bigger. In addition, we have 8,000 new job forecast between now and 2030, with more high-value jobs, from the investment in the Freeport, dockyard redevelopment, and large construction projects that's happening across the city. The Skills for Plymouth plan will support the aspiration for high-value jobs in digital by enabling skills development for current jobs and for future jobs that may not currently exist today, in keys such as autonomy, biometric technologies, digitization, to enable mass deployment of, now this is a hard word for me to say, photovoltaics, I never heard how to say that one, etc. The Skills for Plymouth plan recognises that through working together, we can deliver a responsive single skills system that meets the needs of local employers and where local people across all ages and all communities can access skills, job and support for career progression right here on their doorstep in Plymouth, enabling them to thrive in the city. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Carlo. Any questions? Councillor Smith.
I guess just a question of kind of what happens next. So once it's been delivered today or agreed today, where does this next take us? And I realise that's probably quite a big picture thing, but have you got any snapshots of what might be next?
Not myself personally. We might have, we can get back to you with an actual timeline if that's what you'd like to know. Yeah? Is that okay? Thank you. We've got Tina here though, so she might be able to fill it in.
I was going to say, Tina, did you want to come in on that?
Yeah. So
Most of you. I think the camera's sort of playing tricks a bit. Yeah, thank you. That's a bit better. Yeah.
okay. Sorry. Yes. So the next steps are we're developing an action plan. And a supporting dashboard that will be underpinned. We're recommending that the delivery action plan and the dashboard are led by the Employment and Skills Board. And we're aiming to have the delivery plan complete by the end of October. Again, it involves quite wide consultation across and alignment across education, across many training providers and employers. But we should have that in place by the end of October.
Thank you. Councillor Dr. Mahoney.
Thank you, Leader. I'm pleased to note that we're well above average in the number of young people in apprenticeships, much higher than average for the country. I was a bit concerned during the pandemic that actually apprenticeships were much more difficult to continue, and I think there were difficulties, but hopefully now we're out of the pandemic, we can continue with some fabulous employers in Plymouth who obviously subscribe to having apprentices. And, there are lots of other ways to learn and be educated other than go to university. So it's great news that we're at the forefront in establishing apprenticeship, and I hope that will continue.
Thank you. Tina, did you want to come back on that? Or?
Yes. So, in the Southwest, we account for 1 in 3 apprenticeships across the UK. So we do host a high level of apprenticeships. However, we do have 380 vacant apprenticeship offers empty at the moment in the city. So we're working really hard to push those. And what we're really seeing in the city is a trend towards much higher apprenticeships. So we're moving away from the level 2 into the level 3, 4 and 5 apprenticeship offers. So we're seeing that high demand, higher skills from our local employers. Which again is fantastic news. And also we've just had the figures in for our NEETs and for our universal claimants on under 25s. And for the first time, in a long time, we're below the national and regional averages, and those numbers are declining, which again is fantastic news as well.
Great, thank you. I've got a quick question. I just want to sort of talk around digital slightly. And what we're doing in terms of digitisation and skills education, etc. I don't know if people saw the news at the weekend, but the new CEO of Twitter is of Indian origin. So the top 5 tech companies, their CEOs now are of Indian origin, which is fantastic. 15% of Silicon Valley they're from Indian high schools and tech schools. So you're sort of pitching forward, looking at Britain. And British students here in Plymouth. What are we doing around sort of upskilling and making people digitally literate, and I guess the question is around aspiring for sort of tech and digital jobs, whether they're here or whether they might be elsewhere.
Sorry, leader, would you like me to come in for the education?
Yeah, if you wish, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are running quite an extensive outreach program with schools, and we have been doing this for a number of years. And we're holding sectorial events. So, for example, last month we held Medifest, and Medifest, which is a showcase of health and technology jobs. But what we do is we embed all the high tech. So we've got all of the state of the art, equipment in terms of mannequins and other high tech equipment used in hospitals, which we're showcasing to young people. In 2 weeks' time, we have STEM GP, which is a full day where we've got nearly 800 young people taking part in a full day of interactive science experiments. So we have things like ROVs, remote operated vehicles, which the children have a go at, and other high tech equipment. And we've also run events in the past where we've taken augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality into schools. And we've also hosted at high tech events as well and careers events in the past. So we're working with our businesses to really showcase the high technology and making sure where we can, we embed that into the schools, take that into the schools, or we hold the really high profile events where we have the exhibitors showcasing that technology. And another example of a really high profile event, high footfall event we have in September, over 2 days, we're running a Skills Launchpad live event on the 20th and 21st September. We already have over 3,000 young people signed up for this event. And the day is really interactive and we're bringing in high technology. And a lot of our employers are coming with lots of hands-on technology that the children and young people can actually use and demonstrate. So I hope that sort of helps to show how we're actually implementing technology into education.
Thanks, Tina. I'll bring in Tracy.
Thank you very much, Leader. Just as the chair of the Plymouth Education Board, tying in the skills agenda to the curriculum within our schools is really important. That point around digital skills and digital learning, and something that the Education Board and these groups within the city are taking forward in making sure that we are able to embed those digital skills within our schools.
That's great. Thank you. Anybody else? Sharon? Sharon, I think you're on mute, maybe?
First one today. Sorry. Hello, everybody. I was actually just going to say what Tracy said. So I think from the Plymouth Education Board's perspective, we need to be thinking about technology and education right from our early year settings all the way through into secondary, and building on the kind of activities that are happening now, but really nurturing that intelligence and that understanding across the system at its earliest stages. So that will be a priority area for each of those groups, and working back from what we've done well in terms of the work that Tina's recognised there, but really embedding it in our early years approaches, primary opportunities, visibility of what it looks like, and then looking at career pathways into future technology careers.
Thanks, Sharon. Sharon, apologies. I think this is your first cabinet that you've attended, if I'm right. So, so welcome to cabinet. It's
thank you.
It's good to have you here. So that's Sharon Muldoon, sorry, Director of Children's Services, and thanks, Tina. I think that concludes the questions. Ming's got his hand up. Ming, did you want to say something?
Yes, indeed, Leader. I'd just like to add, we do have a tech demo school. That's a Devonport Grammar School for boys. And the head teacher there, Dan Robert, taking a lead in our technology education. And they were funded by DFE to lead the Plymouth technology education. As well as now their head teacher actually signing up to work with Dan Robert, our Devonport Grammar School for boys. So that's something we will develop further in the city.
Thanks, Ming. Thank you. Great, good news. So we'll watch how that unfolds, and we'll have updates, no doubt. So agenda item 10, UK Shared Prosperity Fund, to you, Councillor Chair.
Thank you very much, Leader. Right, firstly, I'd like to shout out a huge thanks to David Draffen and Amanda Ratzi and the team. There's a huge amount of work going on in the economic development area at the moment, and that's exemplified by this Cabinet report in front of us, which is the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. The UK Shared Prosperity Fund is the flagship government policy to help level up the country and is a successor to European funding. Unfortunately, we've only been allocated £3.1 million, which is about a third of our previous allocation. However, I have written to the Minister expressing our needs in Plymouth. This report represents our approach and has already been to scrutiny. Our approach will focus on fewer, larger projects. Net zero is a cross-cutting theme, and so it is important across each of the themes that we're using here. The Council is working on developing an investment plan which will be submitted by the 1st of August and split into the following priorities: communities and place, supporting local businesses, and finally people and skills. To gauge interest in delivery, we have requested expressions of interest. In total, we have received approximately 30 expressions of interest all across the 3 investment priorities here in Plymouth, and these total a value of almost £10.5 million. So as you can see, we're well oversubscribed 3 times in consideration of our £3.14 million award. All I can do is commend this report to Cabinet.
Thanks, Councillor Chair. No, I mean, it's you made the point very well. It's not without trying. You know, we've got the best economic development team, I think, in the country, and the level of funding that we've got so far from the UK Shared Prosperity Fund has been, I'm going to be quite blunt about it, been underwhelming, and so Plymouth deserves better and needs more, and ultimately, you know, this is UK taxpayers' money, and we've got big issues with deprivation here. We've got big issues with start-up rates around businesses succeeding. You know, there's just such a plethora of funding that we need here across different domains. So we will be pursuing that diplomatically, but very much proactively with our team as we move forward with this administration. Thanks for that. Has anyone got any questions? No. So yeah, the recommendations as stated. We are endorsing the approach taken by Plymouth City Council, agrees to accept the UK SPF funds from government and act as the accountable body with responsibility to distribute the funds. And 3, we delegate approval and sign off of the investment plan for submissions to government to the Chief Executive in consultation with the Leader of the Council. Is that okay? Agreed. Thank you. Okay, agenda item 11, Local Government Association Corporate Peer Challenge. And we discussed this a little bit at planning a couple of weeks ago. So I'll hand over to Tracy to talk further. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leader. The approach to sector-led improvement is led by the Local Government Association, and periodically we invite them in to have a look at what we're doing, and a group of peers arrive and we'll have a look and see what we're doing, talk to a load of people, a load of organisations, and have a look and see if our self-assessment, where we think we are in our journey, is where we are. And the report before you today sets out the report from them. And I think just a few words that are kind of taken from the report: strong leadership, pride, passion, ambitious plans, clear approach, realistic delivery plans, elected members committed to communities, cross-cutting, cross-party working, our partnerships are strong, and the Plymouth plan is absolutely the guiding plan for us as a place. So some really, really strong feedback from them. And inevitably, when we ask people to come in, they find some areas of work that we can do next. I always like to think about it as what do we do next rather than areas that we have to improve. It is about a journey that we're always on, and you can do certain things and then you move on to do the next things. So the action plan that we've set out before you is very much focused on the things that we need to do next. Fortunately, because I think we are quite a self-aware organisation, most of those were in hand, and the timing and bringing those forward is set out in the action plan for you. But actually making sure that we've got that focus, we've got the focused on the areas to do next. What we've put in front of you, though, although it's pulled together in a single action plan, what we would suggest is that it's actually embedded in the plans that we already have. Otherwise, you end up with separate worlds of different sets of plans. So what we've done is particularly relate it back to the plans, delivery plans that we have underway now, strengthening them in some areas where the peers have said you could probably do more, and making sure that they're set out in that way. So the report is before you for endorsement today.
Thanks, Tracy. Any questions? No, I mean, just, sorry, Tracy. There you go.
What I forgot to do is, and it's absolutely remiss of me, is to say a massive thank you. Thank you to the people who took part, our partners, staff, members across the organisation. But actually, the report reflects the hard work of members, staff in this organisation, and our partners in what we're able to deliver for the city. Apologies, Leader.
Great. Thank you. So, do we accept the 3 recommendations? Yeah, everyone's happy, content? Good, thank you. Agenda item 12, the Finance Monitoring Report Month 2, Councillor Share.
Good afternoon. Now we're on to the finance report for Q2. Thank you very much to Brendan and his team for all the hard work that they put into this report. It's looking good. Colleagues, in line with the usual practice, this is the first financial monitoring report of the current financial year. Given the inflationary pressures in the national economy, particularly price increases experienced in energy and fuel, it is no surprise that these elements feature in the outturn forecast presented in this report. The outturn forecast for period 2 is currently £5.5 million overspent. Of this figure, 3.1 million relates to energy and fuel, and the balance of 2.2 million to matters that officers will be working hard to resolve as the year progresses forward. The Council will be considering in the periods ahead on how to deal with the energy costs and the pressures, and I can reveal that there is a response of officers who are establishing a working party under the leadership of the Strategic Director of Customer and Corporate Services to bring forward proposals to drive lower energy consumption moving forward. This may include a campaign to make us all more aware of our energy consumption and the role that we can play in managing it. The recommendation for this one is that the Cabinet notes the report and the current revenue monitoring position.
Thanks, Councillor Share. Any questions? No? No. Okay. So we are going to note the report and the current revenue monitoring position. Yep, content? Good. Thank you. Agenda item 13, the Plymouth Crematorium capital budget variation. I'm going to ask Councillor Pat Patel to introduce the item, and I understand Councillor Pemberthy, who leads the scrutiny in this, is also with us today. Is that right? Excellent.
Yes,
Hi, Chris. Okay, so over to you, Councillor Patel.
Yes, you're right, Leader. Councillor Pemberthy is there with us, and also Sandra and Anthony Payne are with us as well to help answer any questions. Very quickly, I'm not going to read out the whole report that's been put in front of me. However, we scrutiny recently the costs of delivering the crematorium project have escalated quite considerably due to unprecedented events outside our control. And as can be seen in the report, the costs now sit at some 29.4 million in total, and they will be made up as follows: service borrowing of 16 million, to be paid from the service as part of the original approved business case. Corporate borrowing of 6 million, included in the 22-23 budget, approved by full council on the 28th of Feb this year, and additional corporate borrowing of 7.3 million. This to be varied from the existing FM capital budget to ensure that the capital programme limit set by the council is not breached. Whilst this is a large-scale increase, it does not reflect price increases in the. It does reflect the price increases in the construction industry generally, and ultimately will deliver a much-needed modern bereavement facility that we can be proud of, and which will support the bereaved families of Plymouth. So yeah, the report is there for people to look at and see and comment on. And the recommendations that we're asking you to approve are: the Cabinet note the amendments to the business case of the crematorium as explained in the accompanying papers. The Cabinet agree veerment of 13.352 million from the existing FM corporate estate capital resources to finance the Plymouth crematorium scheme, and this is to offset the increased cost as set out in the revised business case and supporting documents. And of this veerment, revenue funding to support corporate borrowing of £6 million, which has already been approved in the 22-23 budget, approved by the council on the 28th of Feb. And finally, the Cabinet to note that the veerment of the FM budget will ensure the overall capital commitment can be constrained within the existing levels of the capital programme, pending the usual review of the programme as set out in the 23-24 budget process. I'd also just like to add that Brendan is here from the 106 team, Section 151 officer, to answer any questions on the financial side.
Thanks, Councillor Patel. Did you want to bring Councillor Pemberley in, or what format do you want?
So we were going to bring him in after the recommendations to do the scrutiny bit. He has a number of things to put to us which we have to agree on or disagree.
Okay.
So, do you want to come in anyway, Chris, just to say a little?
Okay. So, any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Could I just ask what a provision for a book of remembrance of £100,000 will involve? Obviously, it's something more than just a straightforward book. I'd be grateful for some information, if possible. It's on page 88.
Sandra, did you want to come in? Anyone?
Apologies, Leader. Good afternoon, everybody. I think this is one that Karen Jennings is going to have to answer for you from the bereavement service. It's not something I'm party to.
Okay, Karen, could you help?
Sorry, nerves, and forgot to unmute myself. The provision there for the 100,000 is for the actual building itself, rather than the building that the book is contained with on the new site. So there would be flowers area outside, full services, and a digital book of remembrance inside as well. I hope that helps to explain it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Brendan, did you want to speak to this?
Leader, I've nothing to add at the moment, but happy to take any questions on the funding if members have them. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. I think, Councillor Pemberley, if we could bring you in now from the scrutiny perspective, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leader. Maybe fortuitously, we had the bereavement services on our scrutiny agenda last week. We had previously scrutinised in December last year when the then cabinet member told us that the project was on time, on budget, with a contract about to be signed. Obviously, we were aware of a number of changes since then that meant that we felt that we should probably take a second bite at the cherry. And the reason for doing that is that the Life Centre was a once in a generation project that was scrutinised well, changed in its specifications and costs, and just delivered something that's important for Plymouth. The box was a once in a century investment, which went through a similar process. And actually, the new provision of a crematorium is another once in a century provision for the city. So it's important that we get this right. Scrutiny wasn't saying that we need to cut the costs and the rising costs are wrong. What we were saying was we want to make sure that the provision is the very best provision it can be and the right provision for the city and is managed properly. And so we welcome the fact that a general exception notice has been published this time for the decisions you're making today. That didn't happen for the emergency decisions that were taken just a few months ago. So thank you for that. There isn't a full report on this. What you have is a draft minute because we only met last week. But we have some recommendations for you on the way that this should go forward. Some of them are for you and some of them are things that are actually going to be things that we will deal with. But the first is that we would encourage you to swiftly sign the design and build contract for the construction rather than leaving it in this limbo state of a preferred provider with bits being nibbled away all the time and with no capping of price. The second is that we'd actually like to see at that point the full updated business case so that we can look at it in detail. We understand that's commercially confidential in lots of areas and contains a lot of detail that isn't in the public domain, so we would deal with that as a part 2 item because we don't want to cause problems, but we do want to be thorough in our scrutiny. And we also recommended that a governance board was established by Cabinet. This would be in line with previous practice of the council with cross-party membership, given that this project is both urgent and important. We did go into part 2, and I'd like to thank Councillor Patel and his team for bearing with us as we switched from open to close, but it did enable a much fuller discussion. One of the things that we think maybe needs to be done is a lessons learned exercise. We know that there are all sorts of issues beyond our control, and it's not that we are so much interested in, but looking at how officer skills development and the way that the resources of the council are used on these very major projects is, I think, important, something that we felt was worth looking at, especially as future major developments are there in the capital programme, and we need to make sure that the lessons that we learn from each of our developments are brought into normal working life. We are asking that the cross-party work on reviewing the capital programme agreed as part of the budget setting should review the impact of rising costs and scheduling on all capital programme activity in the light of the lessons being learned from this project. We will be adding this project as a standing item on the Performance Finance Customer Focus Overview and Scrutiny panel until the work is successfully completed and the facility in full use. This mirrors previous custom and practice, but I think it's important that you're aware of that. And at our next meeting, we're specifically going to be looking at, and in part 2, because of the nature of the guidance and commercial sensitivity, the focus on government guidance and regulation regarding council-operated crematoria and budget management. But we will all be visiting the site. So it was a good scrutiny. I'd like to thank everyone that was involved for helping that to happen. I don't think we've been too controversial in the recommendations that we've made. Obviously, some are for us and some are for you, and hope that you accept those as we seek to work together to make sure that this project is a fitting project for Plymouth with a lifespan to mirror those of the current provision that we're now replacing over a century after it was built. Thank you very much, Leader.
Thanks, Councillor Pemberthy. And can I just reiterate from my perspective the thanks to your members of your committee, Performance, Finance and Customer Focus Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and your leadership on that for looking at this. And I think this is, there's many lessons learned here, but it's actually a good example of how scrutiny can be positively used to get in front of decision making in many ways, even though this is a case that's been sort of going on for quite a few years now. But I have to say, I found that fusion between the executive and scrutiny very, very useful over the last few weeks. So thanks to your team on that committee. I will ask, we've got the 8 recommendations from scrutiny in front of us. Sorry? Oh, yeah, yes. I was going to say, I'll open up the question. We've got the 8 recommendations, and we've all got those in front of us, and we'll go just for questions around that, and then I'll come to Councillor Patel to see if he's content with the 8 suggestions.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Councillor Pemberthy. It's a really interesting, good report. And the only question I've got is just to understand a little bit more what the synergy is between recommendation number 3 and recommendation number 6, where you've got a governance board, but then you're also scrutinising it at scrutiny as well. And I'm just, seeing as the key thing with this is that we get this moving, I'm just interested to know what each of those 2 groups might, within your recommendation, what you foresee that looking like, just to make sure that we're not adding meetings in to further slow the process down. So I understand that there's probably a very valid reason. I'd just be really interested to know how those 2 groups relate to each other, but also why we need 2 and why one of those isn't kind of significant enough.
I think we were reflecting very much on the way in which previous major projects have happened. So if we were to take the box as the most recent one, the governance board was the appropriate cabinet members and their shadows with senior officers making the project happen. Scrutiny looked at the project. So I think the recommendation is that rather than this being a cabinet member with officers working, that this is open to a formal board which is established with terms of reference to take it forward, to be held accountable, and to make sure that the project is tightly managed and that done in a cross-party manner. So that's an executive management function. What we're saying is that we're also going to be scrutinising this well to make sure that we provide checks and balances and recommendation to that board, and if necessary to cabinet member and cabinet around decisions that are being made or processes that are happening.
Brilliant, thank you. That's a really, really helpful explanation. I think that was really, well, I'm glad I asked the question because that has given me more of a sense of what you mean. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else for questions for Councillor Pemberthy? No. In which case, we will be voting on the recommendations, but are you content with the 8 proposals from the Scrutiny Committee?
Yes.
I think you indicated you are. Yeah, thanks, Councillor. Okay. So we move to the vote of recommendations. I'm not going to read them all out. We've got them in front of us. So do you accept the 2 recommendations in front of you on this agenda item? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Pemberthy. Thank you for attending.
Thank you, Leader.
So we move on to agenda item 14, Parking, Modernisation and Environment Plan. And I hand over to Councillor Shayer.
Thank you, Leader. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you very much to the Strategic Director and his Group Manager for this report. There's a huge amount of effort and time and sympathy gone into the writing of this report, and that should be noted. Okay, this report brings forward the proposals to consult and then revise the parking charges in the city. The report presents a number of proposals as part of the Parking Modernisation and the Environmental Plan. The city is required to consult on these proposals to ensure statutory requirements are met, bearing in mind that these proposals in the attached report are aimed at improving customer experience and customer journey and access to services, demonstrating our values as a responsible council in responding to the climate emergency, supporting the council's £9.8 million investment in mobility hubs as part of the wider £58.8 million Transforming Cities Investment Fund. I have got a note here with regards to section 4.9, which has now been withdrawn, and section 4.9 now will address electric cars as a flat rate, and all other permits will be raised in line with inflation. This recommendation is for the council to launch the consultation. I believe that these proposals are in the interest of the green agenda in Plymouth, and I commend their recommendation to the Cabinet.
Thanks, Councillor Shea. And I think you've been very noble to thank the officers. I know you've spent dozens of hours on this, so well done. And it just shows the detail that we are gripping these sort of challenging issues with. You know, before I open it up to questions, just to restate the fact that money does not grow on trees. Money is generated by the private sector and by residents to pay for public services. And there comes a point where authorities become very challenged with the amount of money that they have. So you know, our goal, and it's a very set goal, is to have a council tax freeze in the next financial year. And we do have huge challenges around addressing potential budget deficits, as any authority does at any point. So that does mean that we sometimes have to look at discretionary fees, and that parking fees have not been looked at. Some parking fees haven't been looked at for 15 or 16 years, but certainly other parking fees haven't been looked at for 5 years, since 2017. We are one of the cheapest authorities and areas to park in across the country. So when we are looking at this data, we have done analysis on comparative data. We've looked at the comparisons, and it's great news, but we are friendly for businesses. We're an open economy here, and I'm really pleased with this. Is a consultation. It is not a decision, it's a consultation that we're opening up, and suggested within this consultation, of course, is the protection of free parking areas in many places that our residents and businesses use. I'm also encouraged to see that actually in 4.6 that we are consulting on removing maximum stay restrictions. Definitely. For a number of locations that we all use here and we all enjoy it in Plymouth. So I think it's a comprehensive, well-researched, consultative document we're putting out there. And I will sort of, my only question from here is, if perhaps Councillor Dreen or Councillor Shea could answer around the nature of consultation. What does that kind of look like over the next few weeks and months? Thank you.
Thank you, Leader.
Councillor Dreen, then Councillor Shea.
He can come in after me, I don't have no problem.
I'm sure they're both good answers. So.
Okay. The normal consultation process is that we write to partners, so City Centre Company, the Waterfront Partnership, maybe disability groups, etc. That's the first part. And then the secondary is the statutory, where it has to be advertised in the local media and notices put on lampposts in the city, etc., for people to take part. So that's the normal process. I'll just double check with Mr. Arthurton that's with us that that's the process that's planned for this. Mr. Arthurton, are you with us? Can you confirm?
Yes, I am, Councillor. Yes, just to confirm, exactly along the lines of what you've said, we are required as an authority to conduct a statutory consultation around changes proposed in here. But what we want to do is go a stage further and actually undertake some meaningful engagement with key stakeholders in the city, so that we can drive awareness to this and make sure we capture as many views as we can in bringing this back to council.
Thank you very much, Mr. Arthurton. One of the things I liked was that for the first time, if you're parking on street and you have time left on your car, you could theoretically drive to another on-street location and use the time up there. and also that we're looking to introduce a 24-hour stay in our long stay car parks to support visitors, or if someone's coming for the city to do work just for 24 hours and they arrived in the afternoon, they can get a permit which expires the following afternoon for their business whilst they're in the city. So that's nice to see that. And we're also looking to increase the spaces of the parking bays in our car parks. Cars have got larger. If we go back 40 years, they're quite small, and obviously this day and age they're growing in their size. So we're hoping to make some of the spaces slightly larger in the car parks as well, off street. Thank you, Leader.
Thanks, Councillor Dream. Councillor Shea, did you want to add anything at all?
I've got no more to add to that.
Okay.
There are 17 bodies that we consult with before we go out to public. So there's an awful lot of areas that we do talk to.
Thank you. Councillor Dream.
Sorry, one thing I forgot to amend also, or advise I should say, was that we do support the hospitality sector at hotels, and they get a discounted permit for their clientele staying overnight, etc. What we're looking to do is we're looking to move that online so that all that transaction can take place at the hotel, so that they don't have to come to us. There's a delay. Someone may get a ticket by accident or something. So we're looking to move that online, that the guest houses and hotels will be able to do themselves. Thank you, Leader.
Thanks, Councillor Dream. That's very helpful. Councillor Carlyle, did you have your hand up at some point? Yeah.
Just to ask a question, if that's okay, about the district parking. Is that right to ask a question on that? Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's a two-part question, really. Obviously, it's about the plain parking as well. I know we're saying that some motorists are known to use the 3 hours free parking to visit other locations. Do we know actually where that information has come from? So that'd be just to know, because I know that some of the businesses up at Mutley will want to know where that's come from. And the second part, which is probably a technical question, which you might need to ask other people, is how easy will it be for people who've gone away and then want to carry on to like 3 hours? You know, when you've gone away, they might be sat having dinner or something, and they suddenly go, oh, I'm coming to 2 hours. Is it easy enough for them on a Ringo app or something to increase their hours while sitting there, or do they need to go back? Or I think just interest for the public.
If I cover the second question first, yes, it will be easy by Ringo or whatever method we use to renew, update their parking stay time.
And sorry, we've had some at our transport meetings, liaison meetings with the bus companies and things. They've noticed that people have been coming from the car parks and going into the city centre and then coming back on the current 3 hours. It is a long, complicated process for the staff to look at cars if they've been there. I believe it involves, and again, Mr. Arthurton can confirm this if I've got it right, they're looking at the tyres and where the valves are in them as well, so that if the car hasn't moved after 3 hours, they know it's been there for 3 hours. But that is obviously a very long, extreme method of doing it. Just to give you some further information about the Ringo as well, it's being used in the Theatre Royal now. We made some alterations in May. We took away the barriers to the front of the car park and the rear of the car park to get out. It's been much well received, especially by the theatre goers in the evening, because when they arrive, they pay for it instantly on Ringo. A small percentage use their debit or credit card, and when they come out from the theatre, they get in the car and they drive away. They don't have to go over to the machine to pay and put their ticket in. So Ringo there is a new version of Ringo coming on, and there'll be more things to be made available on that. When you use Ringo, it's just a one local fee to Ringo to use it, and so far it's been well received.
Thank you. Councillor Patel.
Thank you, Leader. I don't know whether there's been an omission or an oversight. I mean, the report is comprehensive enough, but one thing I think is missing on here is motorhome parking. We do that at Mill Bay at the moment, and I think that's working quite successfully, the temporary bays that were put in, but we don't seem to be allowing any motorhome parking anywhere in Plymouth. I know Jenny Cliff is quite popular, and there's no reason why we shouldn't be allowing people to park there overnight and maybe charge them for it to increase revenue. I just want to know what's happening about motorhome parking.
Good question.
I'll answer that one. We've done a trial, as you know, this year for the Continental Ferry operator to see if is it something that is being used, and it is, and it's been well received, and we received many letters of commendation from people who've taken advantage and used it, and they've made a point of saying how much they've actually spent in the city before their trip. Recently, there was someone came back late at night, didn't want to drive to Scotland, went out there and used the facility and wrote a very nice email into the staff as well. We're going to be looking at it at the end of the summer. We recognise we did this for a specific reason, but as you so rightly mentioned, there are other people just touring the country. So it's another piece of work we're planning to do at the end of the summer, and we'll come back and share it with everybody when we've had some data come through.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Leader. Just a couple of comments and then a couple of questions. First of all, I welcome the new 24-hour option in the city centre, because this has actually come up in previous planning committees where hotels are not providing cars, but it was pretty clear that if you were staying in that hotel, you were going to struggle to find somewhere to park overnight. So I really welcome that. I think that's going to help future planning applications where we can justify not building in car parks, but still know that our visitors, should they be driving, obviously we're hoping they might be coming by train or bus or whatever, should they be driving, might have a safe place to park within easy distance. So I really welcome that. I also welcome the extension on the pay systems to enable Android and Apple Pay. I've certainly been caught out myself where I didn't have a card or cash on me post-COVID, where I've relied entirely on my phone. So I think that brings us into the 21st century and means, you know, people are not going to get caught short in a payment way, at least. The couple of questions I have, I also really welcome the change that's been made to point 4.9 from a residence parking perspective. I suppose what I'm asking is, I appreciate this is looking at the funding mechanism for parking and revenue. However, it raises the question, which I'm sure residents will have as they're facing an additional payment for their parking permits. Just to wonder, have we got any plans at any stage to tackle oversubscribing of certain areas, just to enable us to know what we're looking at there? And also, can we do more to push for making sure that we are being really strict on eligibility criteria for new permits in residential areas, but also renewals, because I think that's a source of tension for residents. So whilst we're looking at permits, is there anything we can do? It could be a question for Jonathan. It's a bit of a tangent, but I'm just foreseeing some of the things that will come up in the press. And if we can show that we've talked about it today, I think that's going to put residents' minds at ease.
Thank you for the questions. Yes, we're always happy to look at that, take those points on board. I know in the, I think it's the Drake ward, sometimes this comes up from time to time, and then obviously you always have someone who's on the boundary where one street is in it and the other isn't, and the cars go to the other street. So it's something I'm more than happy to look at with the team, and there's obviously not only Drake ward, but across the city this might be happening as well. So any information we're more than happy to have, so we have the data so we can look at it and see what we can do.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? No. Okay. Thanks for that. So we're going to move to the recommendation. However, we just need to slightly reword the final sentence. I think this is my suggestion. So to accept the recommendation 6.1, but I think in the final sentence we say, we keep it as it is. It is therefore the recommendation of this report to undertake consultation on the proposals as set out within this report, comma, except 4.9, or and to provide a report to Cabinet on conclusion of the consultation. Yeah. Thank you all. That's that done. Almost a parallel of June, but at 16:45 the meeting is closed. So thank you and have a good evening.